Hey YouTube, I had a few people request a review of a game of my Axemen deck against Bran Restore. Unfortunately, all the games I recorded against this deck while laddering were either red coin plus Udalric blowouts, or uncleared weather taking the game over. I didn't even have any losses to go over. Since hitting Grandmaster, I've only been playing casuals to complete my dailies a little faster, and try out some different decks, so I haven't had many good games worth going over. Yesterday though, I queued into a typical King Bran deck on the casual ladder, and managed to play a real game against him where both of us drew our engines. I don't want to play out Morkvarg into a Coral yet, so I opted to lead on Derogare instead. Playing Udalric is a consideration here, but he wouldn't pass, and it's likely to be better a little later into the round that I'm already up on tempo. He leads on King Bran, and I decided to just cash in on my Udalric now. I don't really want to play Axemen in round 1 if I can avoid it, especially with no weathers, and I don't want Morkvarg getting Coraled, so this feels like the natural play. If his King Bran sent a Raider instead of Olgierd, I would have just played Axemen on melee, knowing that there'd be 3 targets this round, plus whatever I harpoon for Lacerate. This Udalric hitting Morkvarg means my Croc is now pulling a Harpooner. After this Ekimara, I expected my opponent to immediately pass to a low-tempo, high-potential play like Axemen, so I went for it, planning to take the round with Harpooner. Instead of taking the pass, he commits Restore into the round, and this is the easiest Coral of my life. He commits his Sigdrifa too. I feel I'm pretty favored from this position. He's used up all his low econ threats, so as long as I win this round, I can bleed him out in round 2, and win with Restore plus Sigdrifa. I start harpooning. He reasonably decides to kill my Axemen off. One more Harpooner and he'd be out of Lugos range, and there's no way he can let a Lacerate go off on 6 cards of Axemen in a row. My decision here is between playing Axemen and crocking out the second Harpooner. I'd rather play the Axemen here, but if you run the numbers, if he passes, Lacerate plus Axemen is only worth exactly 24 points, which would only tie the round. This gives my opponent an extremely easy pass, and I take the round with the card I expect to be least valuable in the future rounds, the redundant Lacerate. This mulligan was a mistake, and I noticed it immediately after clicking the Shield Maiden. I intended the mulligan the Lacerate, but for some reason I clicked on the Shield Maiden. In hindsight, I think no mulligan is correct here. There's nothing really to dig for, I have a gold weather already, and Lacerate is probably a little more valuable than a Freya. The decision here is between Grimace for Fog, and use the Fog while bleeding him intending to save the RNR for round 3, or just jamming RNR. Most of the time I would Fog here, since I don't really need to win this round, and if he decides to clear the Fog with Grimace, I just win the game immediately. I'm kinda tilted from the mulligan mistake though, and I decided I don't want to play a real game. He has the Grimace, so I keep up the points per turn pressure by fogging his back row. Round 3 is going to be short if it even happens, so getting out this Axemen is a no-brainer. Him harpooning the Axemen was worth a lot more points than it looks. Fog was going to tick for at least 4 more turns, and this Lacerate was going to hit at least 5 cards. His 8-point Harpooner was actually worth 17 points. My only play here is to restore for Derogare, and eat the Derogare to enable my Sigdrifa. This doesn't commit any real resource into the round while establishing some carryover. My last big decision here is whether I want to commit Sigdrifa into this round or not. Ekimara makes my decision much easier. If I'm not going to be up in carryover or cards, I feel trapped into committing harder into this round. I think there's an interesting argument to be made though for armor smithing for just 7 points, and putting some armor on the back row for Lacerate protection. This play of course being notable because it doesn't commit a big round 3 play into round 2. I didn't even consider that during the game though. I knew I had to play more cards, and Sigdrifa was the only card in my hand that made sense to play. Now I need to decide between Ekimara and Drowner. Ekimara establishes carryover for round 3. Drowner doesn't get carryover, but it's worth 7 more points this round. I didn't want to commit myself into using Sigdrifa this round unless I was confident in the 2-0, so I opted for the Drowner line. Carryover doesn't matter if there isn't a next round. This is technically finally my pass, but my cards are awful in a short round, and he has Saris coming back in round 3, so I'm all in. At this point, the only way this doesn't 2-0 him is if Saris comes back in this round, which would mean we both have similar amounts of carryover, and it would just come down to a top deck. The Armorsmith heals one guy, and gives armor to the other guy in the row that he wants to Lacerate. 18-point Armorsmith is pretty good, and his last 2 cards aren't enough to overcome my points. So there it is, the first game we played against King Bran that wasn't a total blowout. He certainly could have played better, but that's true for both of us. The biggest decisions where you get to outplay your opponent come from when to pass. Do you want to have control over round 2? Is it better for you if round 3 is short or long? Is going for the 2-0 viable in the matchup you're playing? These are all important decisions you need to make in every game of Gwent, and the more options your deck gives you with regard to round length, the better you can outplay your opponent or prevent them from outplaying you. That is the biggest strength I think this deck has going for it. You're able to play a round of any length. If round 3 is short, Restore plus Sigdrifa outpowers almost everything else in the game for 2 cards. If round 3 is long, Gold Weather is the most degenerate thing you can do. If round 3 is moderately long, Harpooners and Lacerate rack up a ton of points fairly fast. The season is almost over, but I wanted to get one last video up with this deck before it ended. Good luck to any of you trying to climb at last minute. Until next time.